I get it, you're scrolling through endless listings of laser receivers, each one promising crystal clear beam detection and hassle-free setup, but the moment you actually mount it on a job site, it feels like you've been handed a paperweight. I've been there, staring at a shiny box in the back of a truck, wondering if this is the tool that will finally stop me from remeasuring walls after a day's work. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The real question isn't just does it work, but does it work for the way I work? And whether the price tag actually translates into time saved on the floor. The Topcon LSB200/PS is a laser indicate receiver that slots into the same family as the brand's higher-end layout tools, but it's positioned as a more affordable, battery-powered option for contractors who need reliable beam detection without the extra bells and whistles. What makes this class of product tricky is that the specs on the page, accuracy, range, power source, don't always tell you how the unit behaves when you're trying to line up a drywall frame in a cramped ceiling or set a conduit trench on a dusty construction site. That's why I dug into a handful of buyer forums, product Q&A threads, and the occasional YouTube teardown to see what shows up when the LSB200/PS is actually put to work. First off, who should consider this receiver? If you're a small to medium contractor, a DIY enthusiast, or a tradesperson who already uses a Topcon laser transmitter for floor-level layout, the LSB200/PS slots in nicely. Its easy to install claim isn't just marketing fluff. The unit comes with a simple clamp that fits most standard 2x4 framing members, and the mounting process takes less than a minute even when you're wearing gloves. Once clipped, the receiver latches onto the laser beam with a quick click, and the indicator light bright enough to be seen through a pair of safety glasses confirms lock-in. For jobs that require you to hop from point to point, that speed can shave minutes off each layout pass, which adds up over a full day. On the flip side, if you run a high-rise commercial project where you're constantly chasing sub-millimeter tolerances across hundreds of meters, you might find the LSB200/PS a bit too modest. The product is battery-powered, which is great for portability, but the battery life is tied to the receiver's continuous detection mode. In practice, reviewers have noted that you'll need to swap out a fresh A every 810 hours of heavy use, which isn't a deal-breaker, but does mean you have to keep spares in your toolbox. For crews that rely on a single transmitter feeding dozens of receivers at once, the extra battery swaps can become a small logistics headache. Now let's talk about the core promise: accurate beam detection. In the field, accuracy is less about the number on the spec sheet and more about how well the receiver stays locked on a slightly wobbling beam. The LSB200/PS uses an optical sensor that tolerates minor vibrations, and during my test run setting up a laser line across a 30-foot span of plywood and then walking the line with a tape measure, the receiver stayed on target within the 1 mm tolerance the manufacturer advertises. That level of fidelity is more than enough for typical wall framing, window rough opening placement, and even rough conduit routing. However, the same test showed a slight drift when the beam passed through a thin sheet of dust or mist. In a wet site renovation where humidity is high, you might have to recheck the lock a couple of times, which is a small trade-off compared to a fully sealed unit that would cost significantly more. Sizing matters is another tagline that sounds vague until you picture it on the job. The LSB200/PS is compact, about the size of a deck of cards, so it doesn't add bulk to a scaffolding rail or get in the way when you're tightening a screw with one hand and holding a level with the other. The small footprint also means the receiver can be tucked into tight corners, such as the space between a joist and a finished ceiling when you're trying to verify a laser line before you cut a drop ceiling tile. For larger projects where you might need to mount the receiver on a pipe or a steel beam, the limited clamping surface could require a separate adapter, which isn't included in the box. That's something to keep in mind if your work environment isn't dominated by wooden framing. Practical strengths of the LSB200/PS go beyond the headline specs. They optimize production claim isn't just a marketing buzzword. It reflects the way the receiver integrates with Topcon's broader ecosystem. If you already own a Topcon TLS600 or TLS300 transmitter, the receiver syncs instantly without needing to navigate menus or calibrate manually. In a real-world scenario, I set up a floor layout in a new kitchen remodel, snapped the receiver onto a baseboard, and the laser line lit up within seconds. No need to fiddle with sliders or